Hi, can you guys hear me? Hello?
Hello.
Okay, yes, you can hear me. Give me 1 second. I'm going to go ahead. It's sharing, slowly but surely. And I don't know if you guys are seeing it yet. Hold on 1 second.
Yep, we see your screen, but we're still looking at your inbox.
Yes, that's probably the wrong one. Hold on 1 second. I've changed screens. Tell me when you guys can see the other. It says it takes a minute.
There we go.
See it.
You have to maximize it.
Okay. Great, and sorry to subject you to my very messy inbox.
All right.
Okay, so thanks everyone for joining us today. My name is Amy Enchelmeyer. I'm the senior producer here at the United Nations Foundation, and I work on Giving Tuesday. And thank you for inviting me to join this webinar today. I'm honored to be the one to do a quick introduction about all things Giving Tuesday. So let's start with what Giving Tuesday is. For those of you who haven't really learned much about it yet, we have Black Friday, we have Cyber Monday, we have Giving Tuesday, and it's December 2nd this year. It's going to be December 2nd, 2014, and it's a day where charities, families, businesses, community centers, students, basically anyone, anywhere comes together for one common purpose, and that's to celebrate generosity and to give back. And it's a really simple idea. All we ask is that you find a way for your family or your friends or your community to give however you want to give. It can be as simple as giving somebody a smile. It can be giving a donation. And then we just ask that you talk about it and tell the whole world how you are giving back. And social media is really one of the ways that we encourage folks to go ahead and share their story of how they are giving. We're going to skip slides here for one moment. Where is Giving Tuesday? So Giving Tuesday is actually all around the world, and we are actually about to go ahead and add Ireland to this today, which we're very excited about. Sorry, I'm having technical difficulties on my end. You can go ahead and see all of these different countries and what they are doing on our website. If you go ahead and go to givingtuesday.org and see all the different things going on across the world. Give me 1 second. There we go. Okay. So a little bit about Giving Tuesday 2013. As far as Giving Tuesday has basically social media built into its name. That's why it's got that hashtag in front. And we recognize that social media has a huge impact on the way people interact not only with each other, but also how they communicate about what they care about. This was super evident last year. The infographic on the right here, which is also on our website, is a quick breakdown of the impact that digital media had on Giving Tuesday. During peak hours, the hashtag Giving Tuesday was tweeted as many as 700 times per minute, and it trended on Twitter for more than 10 hours in the United States alone. And we always get in social media the question, so what? What does it matter if it trended on Twitter? What does it matter if it had 700 mentions per minute? And really, we do equate this to giving. Our huge impact in social media last year really spread the word. Our giving was actually up online over 90% year over year. And the actual gift size itself, the amount that people gave, was up 40% year over year. So it really tells us that there's significant digital and social media space for a movement like Giving Tuesday, and key, and that we can really build this awareness through social media. So we always let folks know how they can participate, and the key here is just to spread the word. On the most simple level, we ask that you just go ahead and post to social media about Giving Tuesday. And then we would also love for you to take a bigger role if your organization, your company, your community wants to. And you can join us as a partner organization on our website if you go to and partners just get sort of insider access We have lists on the back end of who else is participating. There are community boards so you can talk with other folks about what's going on. And you'll also receive emails with best practices, tips, and information about these types of webinars. So hopefully a lot of you who are on this webinar today are already one of our partners. We also would love for all of our partners to be our social media ambassadors. And being a social media ambassador is really simple. Again, you just sign up and join, and you'll get weekly, sometimes more than once a week, emails. We've reached Giving Tuesday momentum in the next few weeks. And we'll be sending around share graphics and messaging and tweet this type messaging. And we would just love for you to be a part of that community and share it with your friends and family on your own personal social media site. So a little bit about how we approach social media with Giving Tuesday. Oh, this is what our social media ambassador stuff looks like. This is one of our emails that we sent out this week. They're really fun, ways to inspire people. We're going to get you fun pictures like Giving Tuesday on a pumpkin. We're going to make lots of funny jokes and puns about Halloween. So go ahead and sign up to be a social media ambassador, and you can enjoy all of that with us. Next up, a little bit about social media platforms that we're on and why we're on them. The simple answer is that we're on as many as possible social media. We're on as many social media platforms as possible. This means that you and your donors and your participants for Giving Tuesday can interact with us on whatever platform they feel most comfortable. We really believe it's important to be what we call platform agnostic, which means we don't really play favorites, and we just try to spread the message of Giving Tuesday as far and wide as possible. These are some of the social media accounts that we have: Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest, YouTube, Google+, Instagram, and now Snapchat, which I'll talk about a little bit more later. So what's our social media MO? And I always talk about this as how do we spread the love? And we really spread the love and share the love with everybody on social media. Because the whole message of Giving Tuesday is that anyone, anywhere can give in any way they feel they want to. So social media channels to highlight partners, friends, champions of any kind. It's not just about celebrities or big organizations or how much money you raise or millions of dollars. It's really about giving everybody as much equal treatment and love as possible. If you look on the slide here, we've got one of our local groups. This is actually from my home state of Oregon. Also have our folks at the White House that are tweeting about Giving Tuesday. But we're definitely all about spreading love and sharing on social media. We're constantly sending out welcome tweets to new partners, and we will share anything you want us to. Just go ahead and send us a tweet at Giving Tuesday and tag it, hashtag Giving Tuesday, and if we see it, we will go ahead and retweet it. One of our really big initiatives on social media has been what we call the unselfie movement. And really the unselfie movement is about showing your support and how you are giving back. And so we just ask that you take a picture of yourself. You can see some examples here of folks holding up signs saying what they support and what they gave back to on Giving Tuesday. And just tag it with hashtag unselfie and hashtag Giving Tuesday. And share it with all of your friends on all your different social media channels. We will go ahead and be sharing folks as well as they come through our social media streams. This year we're actually launching a 30-day Instagram unselfie challenge. So we just want folks to go ahead and see if they can show us how they're giving back for 30 days straight. And again, this can be as easy as giving someone a smile, helping someone bring in their groceries. It can be a donation. However you guys want to show us how you're being unselfish, go ahead and tag it with hashtag unselfie and hashtag Giving Tuesday, and we'll go ahead and share it with our social media channels. I also want to take a minute to talk about some of the new platforms that we're going to this year. If you've never heard of Snapchat, it's where all of the kids are hanging out these days, basically. It's a very young platform, but it is also a really highly involved platform. U.S. 18 to 34-year-olds are on Snapchat. About 1/3 of them are there. There are over 100 million users. 400 million stats are sent per day. And we just felt like Giving Tuesday needed to be a part of this platform as well. And so to point out any other platforms we may have missed. Basically what Snapchat is you'll receive what they call a snap, and it's usually a fun photo from us. And you can go ahead and share it with your friends, or you can see it. It'll disappear shortly after it's done. But it's just another really fun social media way to interact with us. So follow us on Snapchat. Finally, I just want to take some time to point out the really great resources we have on our website for social media on Giving Tuesday. If you go ahead and go to givingtuesday.org and go to our tools section, you will see this page that pops up. It's got toolkits, social media ones, selfie toolkits, graphics, really fun share graphics that you can send around to all of your partners and friends to let them know that you are part of the Giving Tuesday movement. We've got videos, ideas. We've got stories from groups in the past that have done stuff. We've got a curriculum guide this year, a science of giving, basically anything you can think of to help you with your Giving Tuesday movement. So go ahead and check it out. Let us know if you have any questions, any tools that your group has created. We would be happy to put them up here as well. That's really it for me today. I'm going to go ahead and just show you guys some resources and how you can reach us if you need to. And all this information, again, is available on our website, givingtuesday.org. So thank you so much, and I'm going to go ahead and turn it back over to Alan.
Thank you, Amy. That was great. And now everybody understands what Giving Tuesday is all about and why and how to take advantage of it. Social media is a really big deal when it comes to Giving Tuesday. The focus of this particular training is going to be on how to message really complex and tough issues at a time when people are expecting celebrations and joy. Our next speaker is Chris Burley, who is the Communications Director at or Vice President of Communications at Women Thrive. And Women Thrive is focusing on some very tough issues associated with violence against women and other related issues. And as they try to engage their audiences during Giving Tuesday season, it is very, very difficult because it's not that happy message that you're most likely to see in other situations. And so when we make that move to try to message the more difficult things at this time of season, it's a challenge. So Chris is going to talk a little bit about how to tell the tough story at a time of joy. And when he's done, I'll come on and show you how to take that message and target it on social media.
Excellent. So what I'm going to try to do today is talk a little bit about storytelling and sort of the narrative arc. Now, you know, there's a zillion channels where you can present these stories, and Alan's going to talk about the appropriate ways to package these for Facebook or for Twitter or for, you know, any of these, you know, email, online. You know, there's lots of different ways you can tell your story. What I want to talk about a little bit more today is the narrative arc, and probably the idea that I want you to keep in your head right now is the idea of a roller coaster. Women Thrive Worldwide advocates, tries to provide a megaphone for women who live on less than $2 a day around the world. We deal with issues like gender-based violence. We deal with issues like food security, hunger, famine, poverty, really all of the awful sort of biblical plagues, except with a gender inequality bent on there. So obviously this is not the thing that you necessarily want to see in your inbox or on your Facebook feed at the end of the year. So the challenge here is, how do we make it compelling, and how do we engage people and motivate them to get involved in that work? So let's go through some basics of compelling storytelling. The first is it needs to be emotional. We make decisions with our hearts. We need to tell people why it matters, and we need to do that in an emotional context. To do that, one of the very simple tricks of the trade is using visually suggestive language or very strong imagery. All of this is pretty basic, but it does bear repeating. Second, this needs to be relevant to the audience. This message, whether it's on Facebook or whether it's in email or on Twitter or whatever, needs to be about the reader, not about the organization or even about the beneficiaries of the project. So you really need to flip the script on its head and try to figure out how you answer the question of why should I care when somebody views your message. Third, it needs to be credible. Will I make a difference? You have to combat cynicism and you have to combat skepticism, particularly on Giving Tuesday and particularly at the end of the year when everybody is sort of making their own pitch. Is this really a problem? Is it worse than the other problem that's being communicated to me via other organizations? And also articulating a credible theory of change, meaning that if I make a donation, it will enable this to happen, which will ultimately result in a better outcome, right? So if I donate today, then I am empowering women like Elena to combat violence against women in her community in Honduras. Elena has proven successful at this, so this is a credible investment of my time and energy. And finally, it needs to be urgent and timely. Why now? And, you know, a little secret here, urgent and timely does not mean, do not mean the same things. The urgency of a problem or the urgency of a value proposition is very different than a statement of timeliness, right? So in the first example, it would be we have 7 days to fund this community-based project to combat violence against women. In the second, it would be it's Giving Tuesday, help combat violence against women. You need to make certain that you really are stressing the urgency as well as the timeliness. Pitfalls to avoid. One, culture. We don't all celebrate the holidays. We don't all celebrate them in the same way. Two, tone. The balance between urgency and agency is especially difficult at this time of year. People need to feel that they are empowered to do something and that they should do something. But we also need to understand the context in which they are reading your message or seeing your graphic on Facebook. And we'll talk about this here in a moment. Again, keep that roller coaster in your mind because that's going to be the narrative arc that we're going to suggest in this. And then finally, attention. It's competing against everyone from people who work on similar issues to coupons from Macy's. What is the particular value for interacting with your content that is unique? You need to answer these questions before you launch something. So how do you do that? Here are 3 ways that Women Thrive Worldwide has done that, both in the past, the present, and the future. Who doesn't love Charles Dickens? So I'm going to use that narrative arc there to suggest that. Thanksgiving 2013, this was one of our earned media efforts where we had a woman on our staff who had come from the Philadelphia area pen an op-ed to the Philadelphia Inquirer. The copy points, and this hits all of the compelling story, criteria that I had mentioned above. We have our urgency. The famine season is coming. We have our personal relevance. While you and I are preparing to eat, people are getting ready to starve. We have a solution set. Right now there's a piece of legislation before Congress that could help feed reduce the number of people who are hungry by 100 million individuals. And then finally, the theory of change. They need to hear from us now. We are the only ones who can do it. And in particular, we focus on the importance of those specific elected officials and how the folks who live in countries like Mali or in northern Ghana or whatever, those voices are not going to be heard on Capitol Hill, but the voices of folks who live in Philadelphia would be. So again, we've got agency here, and we've got that roller coaster. Things are bad, but they can get better. And that's the basic story we're telling. It's the same story that we're going to tell here in a couple of weeks as we embark on End Child Slavery Week. The copy points, the relevance. We're gathering as families for Thanksgiving. And while, this is a great time for celebrating with our families, it's just another day in the mines or in a brothel or in factories for a lot of kids around the world. You and I want better for our kids. Again, we're coming back to the relevance here. We should all want better for the world's children. It's an appeal to shared values. Our urgency. Key decisions are being made right now. Ban Ki-moon needs to hear from as many people as possible as the international development community considers what they're going to do about this problem. And then finally, what the theory of change is here. Your donation helps us reach 20,000 more people and mobilize them to help end child slavery, right? So we can't get this done without a movement. We can't build a movement without you. And as specific as you can be here, the more effective you're going to be. Let's go to our Ghost of Christmas Future or Holidays Future here, and talk about a specific appeal we're going to be doing. This one will be in email will be the channel, but it's going to be supported, as I think all good campaigns are, by a very strong social presence and by all of our channels. We're going to be reinforcing this message. And we're going to say, give a gift to humanity. We want to stop gender-based violence. It's a uniquely important gift that you can give, right? This is so much better than a sweater. This is so much better than another tchotchke that you would put on your desk. What if you could help stop gender-based violence? Well, you can, because men and women on the ground are doing just that, right? So we've articulated that there is a problem. It's enormous and it's persistent, and that there are people who are solving this problem, right? But they need our support. So what we need is, again, to build this movement for them and to restore funding to make sure that they have the resources they need in Honduras or in Sri Lanka to make sure that that we are effectively combating violence against women. We go back to sort of our appeal to reason here, right? Obviously we're going to talk about how terrifying gender-based violence is and what a moral outrage it is that more than 1 in 3 women are impacted by this. But we also want to talk about that we can empirically solve this by pointing to our past successes. That when we have the resources to advocate for this, people in Sri Lanka and Honduras have the resources they need to reduce violence against women, specifically domestic violence. So again, these are all 3 campaigns that reiterate some very simple points, right? We articulate a problem, we articulate a solution, we articulate the relevance of that problem and the specific agency of the reader in solving that problem, and communicate the urgency of them getting engaged. These are all simple principles, but I think if you can bear them in mind as you're creating collateral for Facebook, Twitter, Tumblr, Instagram, email, your website splash pages, your donation landing forms, you're going to see a lot better returns, and ultimately you're going to be able to do a lot more good on Giving Tuesday and in the new year. If you have any questions, feel free to contact me at the information here.
Well, thank you very much, Chris. That was excellent. And now I'm going to go on and we're going to talk about more on the lines of how to do the targeting that you need to do. You're using social media to reach out and get your message out there, but the question is, how do you make sure the right people see it? On the one hand, you're using the Giving Tuesday hashtag, and that's really important. And that helps UN Foundation retweet it and all that stuff. But and the people who are involved in Giving Tuesday. But the success of your campaign is really going to depend on reaching beyond the people who are already paying attention to the Giving Tuesday hashtag. And so I want to talk about how to use social media in particular to target your message in order to reach broader audiences than those who are already cued in to what it is you're doing. I'm going to start with a couple of slides talking about the anatomy of a tweet and the anatomy of a Facebook post, really highlighting what it takes to target it. Here's a tweet that is a variety that we were using in the summer of 2010 when I was working at the Center for American Progress. We were actively involved in trying to repeal the Don't Ask, Don't Tell policy in the U.S. military. The elections were coming up in November, and in December there was a report coming out from the DOD on the feasibility of repealing this. Of course, the Republicans wanted to wait until after the election. The Democrats wanted to make the decision before the election. That was the politics things. We wanted to cut through that and talk about the real implications of waiting versus doing it now with respect to our ability to maintain national security. We were at war at that point with Arab-speaking countries, and there was some speculation that a large number of our Arabic translators in the military were hiding the fact that they were gay because of the policy. That is a big, particularly problematic issue because it affected retention and recruitment of military generally, but in this particular case, those very specific and crucial personnel in the military while we were at war with people who spoke the languages they were particularly good at speaking. So here's a tweet that we did where we had a report which came out that said, it's best to repeal it now in order to maintain recruitment and retention, but it won't go into effect until, but it shouldn't go into effect until the President and the Joint Chiefs of Staff sign off on the report in December. But making that commitment now increases the morale at questions for recruitment and retention. So the tweet says, we're targeting a member of Congress. So we're mentioning the member of Congress, Senator Chuck Grassley from Iowa, in particular in the tweet. But we're also looping in the conversation community that had developed around the Don't Ask, Don't Tell Twitter handle, or Twitter conversation using the hashtag Don't Ask, Don't Tell, or DADT. We also wanted to loop in the people who were focused on Iowa because Senator Grassley is the senator from Iowa. So we used the hashtag #IA, which is the hashtag for the state of Iowa, the postal code. And then we wanted to loop in progressive organizers and activists who use the P2 hashtag because they're likely to be on the same side of the issue and to help promote it, retweet it, and all of that. And every time this thing would get retweeted, it would be like sending a signature on a petition to Chuck Grassley saying, hey, read the report and then vote for this bill. We also targeted 2 specific Twitter users. At Des Moines Dem is a progressive blogger in Iowa focusing on politics. And given the fact that Senator Grassley is a senator from Iowa, at Des Moines Dem would be very interested in knowing how often Senator Grassley was getting this message. Second, One Iowa is the gay rights advocacy group, or a gay rights advocacy group in Iowa, also interested in Grassley because it's their state, but it's particularly interested in this issue because Don't Ask, Don't Tell was a major agenda item for that organization. And so by incorporating these hashtags and mentioning these specific people in the tweets, we are able to target the tweet so that it reaches the decision maker we're trying to influence, reaches the communities that are concerned about the issue and are concerned about keeping an eye on what that member of Congress is doing, and reaching specific members of the press and specific organizations that have a vested interest in making sure they know what's happening with respect to constituent messaging going into a member of Congress's office. Very, very straightforward, but if you don't think it through and you don't realize who your targets are going to be, you don't incorporate them appropriately into your messaging. So when you can do similar kinds of things on Facebook, and I'll talk about that in a moment, but I want to talk about how do you find the right hashtags on Twitter. I like to kind of, this method that I use for finding the right hashtags for targeting on Twitter is pretty straightforward. The first thing you have to understand is that there are 3 different types of hashtag when we look at it in terms of the noise. There are busy hashtags, which are large audiences, lots of people talking about it, but very noisy and hard to get noticed. There are moderate hashtags, which are smaller audiences, but very engaged, and it's much more likely to be seen, and this is where you're likely to find your champions. And then there are slow hashtags, which have relatively small audiences and really aren't worth paying attention to. A busy hashtag is one that's going to be used every minute or so, sometimes more than every minute, sometimes every 2 minutes or so. A moderate hashtag is going to be from a couple of times an hour to a few times a day, and a slow hashtag is going to be a few times a day or less. You want to be seen in the busy hashtag, but you want to be championed by the moderate hashtag, which means that you have to use pairing. You have to pair the busy hashtag with the moderate hashtag. In this particular case, Giving Tuesday is a busy hashtag, and you want to be noticed. So when you pair Giving Tuesday hashtag with a hashtag that's particularly focused on people concerned with your issue, then the people who are concerned with your issue that are monitoring the issue hashtag, the moderately busy hashtag, when they start to retweet you, your message gets pushed into the Busy Giving Tuesday hashtag stream repeatedly. And that means that you can get your message in there without having to be redundant, without having to tweet the same thing over and over again, which makes you less interesting and may get people to unfollow you. And your goal is to tweet something really powerful today, get it retweeted many times, then maybe tomorrow you tweet something else, get it retweeted, and loop in these other communities that will push your message through. To find the hashtags, I like going through a process where I might I put down on a piece of paper a list of keywords that are relevant to my issue. And then I'll go in, and that could be keywords or keyword phrases. And then I'll go in and I'll search on Topsy or on Twitter, Twitter's own search, those keywords and see what hashtags people are using with them. And I'll start building a list of keywords, of hashtags. And then I may also search the keywords themselves as hashtags, just by putting the pound sign in front of it. Also, if I'm going to use a phrase, getting rid of the spaces in addition to adding the hashtag. Now I'm going to go and I'm going to look at the timestamps on those tweets in order to see how frequent they are, in order to identify which of these hashtags that I've identified are busy, moderate, and slow. I'm also going to look to see whether or not it's the same picture on the left-hand side, because if it's always the same picture, it means one person is using this hashtag, and that's it. And you don't really want to do that. You want to focus on one where you're getting a nice cross-section of pictures. Then I'll look at the busy hashtags, look at the moderate hashtags, and I'll take what looks to be the best ones of each of them, and I might go into the moderate hashtags, and I'll do an additional analysis where I'll look at, say, the last 3 hours of tweets from the top 4 contestants of hashtags in the moderate category, and figure out of the total number of tweets in the last 3 hours, what percentage of them were retweets. So it's the number of retweets in the last 3 hours divided by the total number of tweets in the last 3 hours times 100. And now I know what the percent rate of retweets are for each of those moderate hashtag categories. And then I'll prioritize based on the ones that are most likely to produce retweets as opposed to those that are less likely. But if I have 2 or 3 that are very likely to produce retweets, I'll mix them up, and sometimes I use one, sometimes I use the other, pair it up with the Giving Tuesday hashtag so that I can always get myself pushed into that busier conversation. On Facebook, you want to make sure that when you post stuff on Facebook that you're tagging people so that they know what's happening and they know where that your message is being pushed out there in order to get people to like, comment, and especially to share your message. So one of the things you should always remember, you've got 420 characters in a Facebook post before the button that says click here to see more, which, by the way, nobody ever clicks on. So keep your messages to under 420 characters. But because you have those extra characters more than a tweet, always make sure that, especially in this particular type of campaign, that the last sentence of your message says, please share this message. Please share this post. And in particular, if you're going to do a link to donate to your organization and you want them to share it, don't give the link in an update, post a picture. And in the caption of the picture section where you can describe the picture, put your pitch, put your link, say please share. And when people share images on Facebook, the text that you write to go with it travels with the image. But if people just share your link, your explanation of what that link is about does not travel with it. So please be sure to make sure that you post it in such a way that when people share, you are able to get that message and the link traveling as people share it. When you are typing out your message, after you've done the message and the call to action and your link in the caption, skip a line and add a couple of hashtags that will direct it towards conversation communities as if they were footnotes, and tag some other organizations. Type the @ and the name of the organization, or the @ and the name of the person, and it should pull up a list on Facebook where you can actually click on that organization's name or that person's name, and instead of just putting the text of the name, it'll make it a hyperlink, which sends a notification to that organization or that person that you tagged them in their post and draws them to it. That's really, really key, and is going to make sure that your message is seen by the other people out there that might be interested in sharing your message and helping to promote it. But don't be afraid to go out to other Facebook pages, okay? And here you have to be a little sensitive because it's Giving Tuesday, and it's probably not a good idea to go out and post your message to do fundraising on another organization's page that is doing fundraising. That said, there are a lot of community pages on Facebook which are not fundraising organizations, which are just groups of people that have gathered together for various different topics. One example was during the Occupy Wall Street movement, there were pages that were created for Occupy almost every city in the United States, and they had somewhere between 2,000 and 20,000 page fans for each one of them. So in that case, if we were posting something, I was working at the Center for American Progress at that point, so if we posted an article on our blog and posted it up on our Facebook wall, then I would take it and I would share it, or I would copy and paste it onto other Occupy pages because it was, if it was a topic that was of relevance to them. The only thing you have to be careful of is if you're going to do the manual pasting on other walls, on other pages. And the reason why you have to do that is you can't share from your page to another page unless you're the administrator. You can tag them, but if you want to put that message out there so for their audience to see it, then you can go to their pages and cut and paste your message there. But do not cut and paste your message on more than 2 pages in a row without changing it for the 3rd page and for the 5th page and for the 7th page, because Facebook will tag you as a spammer, but you only have to change a few words for it to solve that problem. So I like to write the message, paste it on 2 pages, paste it on the 3rd page, but before I hit post, I'll change a few words, copy it again, hit post, and post it on another page. Then on the 3rd page, I'll post it again, but change it a little bit before I post it again and work my way through it. But this allows you to take your message out further and further. You may lose the ability to monitor the stats, the performance of those things, but you are going to get your message in front of more people as a result of it. And if you've done your research right, done the searches right to find the pages that are likely to be supportive of your message and of your organization's mission, you're likely to find people who will donate to you. All right, so that's what I've got in terms of sort of just specifics on how to go through and do that. I'm going to open up for questions now. We have 3 questions already, so can I repeat the Twitter formula, Anna says. All right, so I'm not going to show my screen anymore. People can still hear me. I'm going to unmute. Hopefully there's no feedback. A lot of background. So I'm muting everyone again. Okay, so let me show the last slide again. All right. The last slide, this is the last slide. Focusing on posting on other people's pages. All right. So while there's that, then the formula for Twitter. So that formula was you want to look at the last, for various different hashtags, count how many tweets there were in the last 3 hours, and then count how many of those tweets were actually retweets, and then divide retweets into the total number of tweets in order to get the ratio of retweets to total tweets over a 3-hour period, and that's a common measure that you can then compare multiple hashtags to each other, and you go to the one that has the highest ratio of retweets to total tweets in the same amount of time period. Other questions? Let's see. Our organization is on Facebook as a cause, and we find this extremely limiting for tagging people. Would love to hear about this. So I'm a big fan of your staff being message bearers for your organization. And there are restrictions on what Facebook pages can do that are not applied to people. And so if there's somebody in your organization that's willing to share something from your Facebook page onto their page and tag people, that would be really, really ideal, and that's how you kind of get around it. The other way to get around it is if you can't tag people, you can, with respect and reserve, post on their pages directly as the organization. So if there's particular people you want to get involved in your campaign and you can't tag them, you can go to their Facebook page and you can post a message to them on their wall with a link to your action, to your donation, asking them to share it. Again, ideally posting it as a picture if you can. Yes, Chris.
There's another dimension to this, and that is the distinction between causes and pages. And so if I'm understanding your question correctly, at some point you established your presence as a cause using the cause module. There is functionality there that is particular to nonprofits that pages do not have, but in general you have fewer options in terms of pushing out your message than you would with a page. So ideally, if you have that cause already set up and you have protocols in place that enable you to sort of care and feed for the cause without too much effort, then you would maintain that. But I think it's really important for you to have a page as well, because that's where you get the best bang for your buck in terms of reaching an audience.
Yeah, and causes have been around for a long time, and a lot of people set up their causes before pages became available or even before they became really very functional. They've gotten a lot better, and they're very good now. Now, it may be that you want to still maintain the cause as your focal point, but setting up a page where the comments on the page or the information on the page directs people to your cause when they get there is really good, but it also allows you to use that page to tag other people and put posts on the page that do link back to your cause, but use the page as a conduit back and forth. It's a little extra work in order to maintaining that, but that's the drawback of having established yourself on a cause before the pages were worth using. There was a time when there weren't any pages. Before the 2008 election, pages did not exist, and there was no intention of creating pages at Facebook until we started pressuring them. A good friend of mine was at the Nature Conservancy that does Ranger Rick.
National
Wildlife Foundation, and they had created a Facebook profile for Ranger Rick, the magazine character, and Facebook suspended the account because Ranger Rick is a fictional character. And the argument was, well, to millions of Americans, Ranger Rick is a hell of a lot more real than a lot of people who are on Facebook. And they said, oh, we have no intention of doing this, but as a result of pressure that was put on, they created pages just in time for the 2008 election, and it's taken off ever since. Do we have to reach out to everyone again and like a new page? Is that if you're creating a new page instead of your causes? So probably.
Yeah, I know when the previous version of this headache was groups to causes. And I know, or I'm sorry, it was groups to pages, actually. I know that when they launched pages, there was a support function that would allow you, it wasn't, you had to actually request it from support, but if you had a significant presence, they would port over those users onto a page. I'm not sure what the relationship between causes and Facebook is these days. At one point, it was pretty cozy, but I don't know if that functionality exists now.
I definitely think you should be pursuing developing a page in addition to your cause at this point, because the pages are the primary focus of the Facebook platform, and
right.
If you want to maximize your support, you're going to have to do that.
Well, I mean, it's good for SEO. It's good for reaching out beyond the community that you already know. There's a lot more promotional opportunities, and also just functionality with the pages.
All right, so we have a question here. We are a summer camp in a team building facility. I thought about trying to raise money for a building renovation in our scholarship fund. Do you recommend focusing the day on one of those instead of both? should we raise general funds and let them know it will go to one of the two things? So this is an interesting question because I've seen over the last several years that there's been particularly great success at fundraising campaigns which have a very specific outcome.
Yep.
Raise money to run this ad, raise money to build this website, it's kind of the Kickstarter model that has been adopted by them ever since. And so you might find that you have more success if you run a campaign for one or the other. However, the idea of raising general funds and telling them that you have two projects that you're working on might not be such a bad idea either.
Well, I've done a lot of fundraising over the years, and in general, the more narrowly focused you can make your appeal. I need you to help me do this one thing. Those tend to be more successful in the near term. To the extent that you are trying to build a long-term relationship with people, I think that's another part of the conversation, because honestly, you probably want to cultivate a community of supporters who aren't just interested in building that one building, but are interested in coming out and helping clean up the summer camp before the kids get there, or are interested in sending a message to support, playgrounds in the local community, or whatever, sort of your worldview and sort of the value set you have there, or building another summer camp. I think it's important to think, not just in terms of what's going to be most effective in the near term, but also like how are you going to follow up with those people? How are you going to continue to cultivate relationships with them in the days, weeks, and months ahead?
Now you can also experiment, and if you can build out a fundraising page which is general, but have checkboxes there that you want to go to the building, to the what was it, a scholarship or both, and let people choose. In that case, people feel like the fundraising appeal, that the money is going to go where they want it to go, but you're also capturing information on who among your supporters are one versus the other or general supporters, and it gets you a nice little piece of data in the process.
Yeah, I might follow up with Alan and I may disagree on this, but there's a lot of validation from the research I've seen that sort of the donor choice model in an organization or philanthropic sort of for an organization, if you give people 4 choices, they're less likely to make any choice.
Absolutely, this is true. I would say one caveat that the best practices are typically averages, and you should know your audience because your audience may be different.
Yep.
And the better you know your audience, the more you're going to be able to figure out what you can do and what you can't do.
Yeah.
Question from Marie at AAUW. What range for donation amount should we expect for a social media campaign?
It depends on what you're using, and hello to my good friends at AAUW. You guys do great work. It really depends on who your audience is at this point. If you are targeting women who are in the university system now, they may have less capacity to give. Alumni from AAUW, and there are a lot of women there who would identify that way, they're going to have a much higher capacity to give. Channel specific, honestly, I have never seen, some larger groups have seen some marginal return on investment, but nobody really has ever made money trying to fundraise on social networks. There have been corner cases, and generally those have been around crisis moments,
right,
or they've been around very novel sort of applications of social media. There is an interesting product that Women Thrive has been helping to pilot out called Good World that allows for direct donations via Facebook comments or retweeting. We saw a much higher conversion rate on people actually donating versus just sending people to a donation form from that. But we also saw a very significant sort of abandonment rate, right?
So a couple things to remember here. I like to think of social media as a way to sort of fertilize the market. So when your email appeals come out, there's already some understanding that that's the case. Another mitigating factor for fundraising on Facebook is the truth is that most people who like your page don't see your posts. At this stage of the game, when you post something on your Facebook page, only 2.5% of your page fans actually get it fed to them in the news feed, unless you pay to promote it. So sometimes paying to promote increases the likelihood that they'll see it, especially when you have a link that goes off Facebook. Facebook lowers the rate at which it distributes it as well. So again, forcing you to pay to promote it. But paying to promote to your Facebook fan base isn't really that expensive. If you have, tens of thousands of Facebook fans on your page, it may only cost you $50 to reach all of them.
Yeah.
So it's really not that prohibitive.
Another thing you should look into, and I know in the 2013 end-of-year season, one thing that did validate as being somewhat successful is lookalike audiences. So this is a process whereby you upload your donor file. Facebook analyzes it for shared characteristics and then serves up your promoted post, be it a donation form or whatever, to a segment of people who look like your donors.
And Twitter now has a similar tailored audience service which works very similarly. But more specifically to your question, Marie, about how much to ask, sometimes you just have to experiment. I would set up 2 pages, one with a smaller amount starting at, say, $5 and up, and the other one that may start at slightly higher and go up in larger increments. And try promoting both of them, switch up every other day, do one versus the other, and see which one works better. And you'll learn what your audience is about. Again, it's very particular to your organization's audience as to which works and which doesn't work, and what may work for AUW may not work for the summer camp. The next question we have here is from Crystal Brooks. We are a foster adoption agency, and confidentiality is a huge issue for us. We are not allowed to use pictures, and stories are not allowed to have specific and identifying details. Do you have any suggestions for telling our tough story?
That is actually a point that you can put into your story. That the severity of the issues that you deal with on a day-to-day basis around the security for the families and the children that you serve are so great that and your commitment to these families and your commitment to these children is so great that names needed to be changed. This was an issue I ran across when I was working with the Bazelon Center for Mental Health Law, where you really do need to respect individuals in this. And a word about this, like one thing that I would caution everyone to do, and it's particularly challenging in the sort of social justice and human services movement, is to be very cognizant that these stories are empowering, not exploitive. So one thing that you'll notice about the presentation that I gave is that a common element in all of those was the ability of people to change that. And it wasn't the, for 50 cents a day, you can make a difference. A narrative that is a very important part of Women Thrive's narrative is that there are individuals who are changing. There are people who are in these awful situations who are changing this, and it is your function to as an organization to help them.
Okay, so we just have 2 minutes left, and there are a couple of questions. I'm going to try to get to them really quickly, and then we'll wrap it up. Diane Hendricks asked, we currently have a limited social media presence. Do you have any suggestions on using social media to expand the donor base into social media. So there's a tool called Attentively, which will match your email, and there are other tools that do this too, but Attentively is one of them, which matches your email list. So you can match your donor list to their social media handles. And then you can email those people that are on Twitter and on Facebook that are in your donor base, knowing that they're already donors, and ask them to please use their social media channels to reach out to their networks to help raise money. This is going to be great because you're tapping into existing known champions. You're emailing them, so whether or not they already follow you on Twitter or Facebook is irrelevant because you know you have their email address, and you're able to tap into that. So I think that's a quick way to give a good boost to what you're trying to do. There are other things, but that'll answer that question pretty quickly. Well, I guess that is the last question we have. Thank you so much to all of you for your great questions and for sticking it out for the hour, for coming out. Thank you to Chris and to Amy for speaking at the event, and thank you especially to Violet Chaga, who is my colleague here, who did all the work to organize this in the back end on our side to make sure that we had the speakers, that we had the room set up on our side that we could use, and to help get everybody going. So thank you to everybody, and good luck with your Giving Tuesday campaigns.